Hey kids, this is Miss T. I hope you guys are doing all right. Welcome to this week's lesson. We are going to be studying Post Impressionism. I brought out my poster here to show you the art era and the movement that we are studying, and you can see from left to right that we are looking at artists such as Paul Cézanne, Vince van Gogh, Paul Gauguin, and Georges Seurat. And the time period is from 1885 to 1910, and you can see Paul Gauguin there, second to last on the poster. So we learned a little bit on the introduction slide there about Paul Gauguin, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on his history because I want to get started on this project. It's kind of a long one, and it's probably going to take you about 50 to 60 minutes to complete, and maybe longer depending on how much detail you put into the project. So we're just going to go ahead and move right on and talk about some of the supplies that you're going to need. You'd want to have a nice sturdy piece of paper. I really like to use the mixed media pads that you can get at Michael's. I think even Fred Meyer and Walmart sell them. So if you guys don't have any of those, I would head down there or ask, maybe you could pop in and grab some. And that's what this book is here underneath my poster. I think I got this at Walmart. You might be able to get that curbside as well. But so what we're going to do is grab our oil pastel. And first thing we're going to do is map out our composition. And this is just a basic landscaping picture. I used the paint sticks from Michael's again. You could brought those out just because they're such a mess-free option. So if you don't have those, you should get them for your house. They're fantastic. But this black oil pastel is what I'm going to use to draw my composition. And I also have the acrylic paints that we used in class mostly for this project, and those will be the paints that I use to block in my colors. And when I say block in, I just mean I'm painting each shape that I draw here with my oil pastel. Okay, so let's move on. Alright, so I'm getting ready here to start drawing my composition, and in the bottom right hand corner I think I'm going to make a nice big bush. It doesn't look like a bush now, but it will later. But go ahead and draw yourself a bush in the bottom right hand corner. And as I was going for a hike the other day, I remembered looking up, I think I was going up Mile High actually, and I remember the trail. Of course it's covered in snow, but I'm going to draw a spring scene or summer scene here. But I see the trail going up the mountain, and then I am going to paint all of the mountains that I see that extend out into the Eagle River town, so, and beyond that, and also a little bit of Arctic Valley on the other side. You may or may not be able to see it in the final product, but that's how I saw it, so that's how I'm going to draw it. So right now I'm just drawing the first line of my composition, and that is the leading edge of the trail. And then on the other side I'm going to draw one more line that represents the trail. And when I draw the second line, I want my line to start wider and then goes narrower as I go off the right side of the page. So I want to make sure you guys have that, do that properly. So it kind of represents you walking down the path and up the hill or up the mountainside. So the next part is I'm going to draw the top of that mountain. And start from the bottom left hand corner and make my way up to the top of the page, and there is my mountain. Okay, I don't know if you've ever hiked up there, but that's the way I see it when I walk up that path. Okay, and so next step I'm going to do is move over to the left side of the page, and there is part of the town out into the Kinnick Arm, or the inlet there, and then I'm making that hill going up the left side of the page. It's actually the Hunter Pass area on the Arctic Valley side. So I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever to you, but probably not. But anyway, those are my mountains for my composition, and it's just as easy as that. Once you get your mountains blocked in or drawn in, then you can start painting. I'm just adding extra details into my painting right now, as I'm sitting here talking about Mile High and looking out towards the Kinnick, or the inlet there. I'm remembering some mountains out in the background, so I'm just adding on. Okay, so we're going to get started with the next step, which is paint application. And I wanted to bring out, these are the paintbrushes that I bought for this project. I grabbed these over at Michael's the other day, and they're just like the really inexpensive, like $5 packet of basic brushes and dabber tools. I think we actually used these like in the other project that I did for my kindergartners. Anyway, they're perfectly fine tools, and use them. Um, they served me well for this project. So what I'd like you to do is pick probably two different brushes. Have one that you can use for your first color and clean in the water bucket, and then switch to the other brush and change colors. So I just like to have two brushes on hand, and also if I wanted to add some whites and blacks to create tints and shades of the colors, I just have two separate brushes as well. So okay, so we're going to move on to the painting part. I'm just grabbing out my acrylic tub here. I used a nice cube clickable or lockable tray that I got from Walmart, and this is another one I ordered from Amazon, and I just pumped all the different colors into the tray, and this is what I'm using. So the materials are pretty simple, um, not a whole lot, just some oil pastels, crayons, paints, and maybe some chalks at the end, and that's about it. So I'm gonna get you started on the painting portion. So the painting portion of this project's pretty simple. All I want you to do is actually just dip your brush into the color that you choose for your part of your composition, and you're just going to dab the color on to the paper. And so basically for each part, I'd pick a color, and then I'd apply the paint, and sometimes I use a crisscross shape, or I would dab it on and add some white and black for tints and shades. So it's pretty simple. Okay, so the first color that I'm choosing is the green color, and I'm just taking my brush and dipping it into the well of paint, and I'm dabbing the color onto the brush so it almost looks like a, a bunch of circles. And then so I'm just going to fill this bush, and then I'm going to dip my paintbrush into the black paint, and then I'm going to mix the black with the green to create a darker appearance, so almost as like there would be a shade in the bush. So go ahead and work on that part, and then when we're done with the bush, then we'll move on to the next portion of the painting. Okay, so I just finished painting the bush my dark green color, and now I'm going to move up the mountain and paint a little bit lighter green. It's going to represent the shrubs and the alders and the green grasses that are on the ground before I hit my trail side. So go ahead and paint that portion of your composition. Okay, so now you can see that I'm switching colors and going into a brown. This is going to represent the actual trail side of the composition. So now we are moving on to the trail and switching to brown. And we're going to use the same exact stroke technique. I'm just dabbing and sweeping the brush back and forth quickly. This is supposed to be sort of a fast and very painterly um, technique. I wanted my mountain to be purple. I really like this color, and I think it would be a good representation of the massive mountain that is in front of me. So I'm going ahead and using purple, and I'll probably mix a bunch of yellow in there as well, because yellow is a complementary color to purple, and add some black and maybe possibly some white to create some tints and shades on this part of the mountain as well. So when you look at a mountain, you don't see just a solid color. There's a lot of variation in there. So Okay, so this is what I ended up with after I painted all of my colors in there. You can kind of see that the purple ended up being taken over here by all the yellow. I really went crazy with it. My camera kind of stopped recording there after a while. Sorry, I didn't get to show you all of the different colors, but you can see that the paint was just applied layer after layer after layer, and then as I got to the top layers I added a bit of white on top like of the yellow and on top of the reds and stuff, so it looked more like a highlight of like the sun shining down on the mountain. So the final step of this painting, well, not the final step, the next to final step is grabbing some chalk pastels. You can get these at Fred's for like $3 or $4 for like a pack of 12. But or I have them here, you can contact me. But I'm just scrubbing different color chalk colors on top of the dried paint. You definitely want to wait until this piece is dried before you get to this next step, but I'm just scrubbing different color on top of the dried paint, and it makes a really neat effect with it. And I'm changing out my chalk colors as well, so keeping it kind of the same or similar color as to what's on the canvas already. Okay, to finish the painting, all I want you to do is to grab a gray pencil or a gray chalk, and you're going to scrub some gray color into the sky. You can also use, you don't have to use gray, but you can also use any other color that you'd like for a sky effect. So light blues or a light yellow with white looks really nice. So you're just basically scrubbing a little bit of that color in the top part of the composition, and I think I used my finger here to kind of blend in the color a little bit, and then grab my white pastel, and this is my green pastel. I'm just adding some random color here, but to finish the sky, I'd grab my white pastel and scrub on top of the gray to have a blending effect. And then you can also add any other colors you want in there for your sky. Okay, so here we go with the final step of the painting. I've got my puffy 3D paint out, some black glitter glue, or you could just use the black acrylic paint and with a paintbrush and outline each of the mountains or layers of your painting. So have fun with this. This is the final step, and just watch it come alive.